Please stand as we commence this morning's program with a word of prayer. And I invite Loma Rock to lead us.
Let us pray. Gracious Father, we are thankful for your watch care over us. We're thankful for traveling mercies. We're thankful that we can be here to conduct the sensitization seminar because we are aware that as we progress, we need to educate. We also need to make sure that all our parties are on board. We ask you to bless those who have to present. Give us clarity of thought. We ask you to bless our leaders, our Minister of Home Affairs, Permanent Secretary, Chief, the Fire Chief, and those who are yet to arrive. We ask you that as we proceed into this program, that your hand will be seen and heard in it. Bless us all and help us to be faithful to our nation's children. In the name of Jesus, Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. Amen.
Please sit. The Honorable Wilfred Abrams, Minister of Home Affairs and Communication. Mr. Errol Maynard, Chief Fire Officer. We are also happy to have with us this morning as well Mrs. Wendy Odell, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Home Affairs and Communication. Fire officers, both senior and junior officers, officers of the Ministry of Education, Educational Transformation, principals, teachers, representatives of the various media houses, ladies and gentlemen, a pleasant good morning to all of you again. I am Christina Morris, Senior Education Officer, and I have the honor and pleasure of guiding this morning's program. Permit me at this time to extend apologies on behalf of the Honorable Shad Blackman, Minister of Educational Transformation, also on behalf of Dr. Ramona Archer Bradshaw, Chief Education Officer, and Ms. Julia Beckles, Deputy Chief Education Officer, Schools. They are unable to attend this morning due to very important matters which they are attending to. It is indeed a pleasure to welcome all of you to this seminar, which marks the launch of the partnership between the Barbados Fire Service and 3 of our schools, the Ann Hill School, the Irving Wilson School, and Wilkie Cumberbatch Primary School. The 3 educational institutions and the Barbados Fire Service headquarters, as you know, are located in the same geographical area. And in Bajan parlance, we can say they're located a stone's throw away from each other. And due to this proximity and the kind of services they provide, it is my hope that as this partnership strengthens, a community will also emerge. In well-developed and functioning communities, people look out for each other. They share with each other. And in the good old Bajan culture and practice, this sharing might involve sharing of produce from your backyard garden, sharing of fruits and vegetables that you reap. But we also want to look at sharing of knowledge, sharing of skills. In communities, we look after each other's welfare and look out for the safety of others. People in communities also socialize. They have shared values and a shared purpose. These practices can foster strong relationships which are beneficial to all persons who live and work in the said communities. I wish to commend Mr. Maynard, Chief Fire Officer, and his team for conceptualizing this initiative. It exemplifies their proactiveness as they seek to better prepare themselves to be responsive to the needs of their community. Today's seminar will provide basic information to bring awareness of some of the behaviors and characteristics of children and adults with special education needs. The presentations will also provide you, the participants, with some tips regarding how you can communicate and interact with persons as you carry out your duties. I invite you to listen actively, to participate actively, as together we seek to build this partnership, to build this community. Welcome all. At this time, I would like to invite the Honorable Wilfred Abrams to come to the podium to address us on this occasion. Please welcome him.
Good morning. Okay. It's a particular pleasure for me to be here because of all the factors that are informing why we're here. One stands out, the fact that we're about to have a brand new headquarters in the Pine. Because of the location of that headquarters and other logistics, we are here. So in the course of everything I'm saying and doing today, just have one word at the forefront of your mind: communication. It's perhaps the most important aspect of living, communication. So it is indeed a pleasure and a privilege to join you this morning for the opening of this vital workshop dealing with children with disabilities. I want to begin by commending the Barbados Fire Service, the chief, the top brass, all of you, for not only recognizing the importance of this topic, but for taking tangible steps to strengthen the capacity of our officers who serve in and around schools, or in the area where schools are, which cater to children with disabilities. Today marks a significant step in the ongoing evolution of emergency services, from the traditional focus on response to a broader, more inclusive commitment to community safety and protection. Central to that is ensuring that every person, and in particular every child, regardless of their physical, intellectual, or emotional ability, is afforded the same standard of safety, care, and dignity in a time of crisis. Fire officers are often the first faces that we see in moments of chaos. When you think first responder, quite frankly, you think police and fire. And most people will actually think fire. Sometimes you are the only hope that a frightened child may have. The responsibility that you carry is immense. And when it comes to children with disabilities, that responsibility becomes more acute and more profound. Too often in the past, emergency preparedness was built around a one-size-fits-all approach. But we know that this simply does not work. A child with autism may not respond to shouted instructions. A child who uses a wheelchair may need additional time and assistance to exit a building. A child who is nonverbal may be unable to express fear or pain in ways that we expect. So today's workshop is not merely about theory or protocol. It's about developing the mindset, the sensitivity, and the tools to meet these children where they are, with the professionalism and compassion that defines the very best of the fire service. Let me be clear. Understanding disabilities is not a luxury. It is a necessity. It is not something we do out of courtesy. It is something that we do out of duty. Our Constitution, our laws, and our moral conscience requires us to protect all citizens, especially the most vulnerable among us. And in that regard, I'm proud to say that the Barbados Fire Service continues to lead by example. The government of Barbados is committed to building an inclusive society one in which no child is left behind, no matter their ability. But that vision must be translated into practice. It must live in our schools, in our transport systems, in our policies, and yes, in our emergency response frameworks. That is why training like this is so crucial. Our officers must be trained not only in the technical aspects of fire suppression and rescue, but in the human dynamics that come with responding to special populations. You must learn how to recognize signs of distress that are not always obvious. You must understand the communication barriers, the behavioral triggers, the practical challenges involving evacuating a child who may not walk, may not speak, or may not even be able to understand what is happening. And you must be prepared to act swiftly, calmly, and above all, compassionately. This workshop also reinforces something we should all remember. Preparation is not an event, it's a culture. We must make it our normal practice for our officers to visit schools, build relationships with staff, become familiar with individual children's needs, and participate in inclusive drills. The more familiar our officers are with the environment, the more effective and less frightening their presence will be in an actual emergency. And to the leadership of the Barbados Fire Service, I want to thank you for putting this initiative on the national agenda. It's exactly the kind of forward-thinking engagement that strengthens public confidence and reinforces the fire service's role as a key pillar of national resilience. The service is always seeking opportunities to improve the type and quality of service that is delivered to Barbadian public. So to the officers present here today, and to all of you who serve across the island, I want to say thank you. Let me say it twice. I want to say thank you. Thank you for showing up, not just today, but every day. Thank you for your willingness to learn, to adapt, and to lead with both courage and care. What we're learning here today has the potential to change lives. In fact, it has the potential to save lives. And it will send a powerful message that in Barbados, every child matters. So let us commit to taking what we learn here and applying it to our stations, our schools, and our communities. Let this be more than just a workshop. Let it be a movement towards inclusion, empathy, and excellence in your emergency response. I also want to thank the Ministry of Education, to the teaching staff and school administrators who have identified with this initiative and who have so willingly partnered with us in making this training a reality. Your insight, your openness, and your commitment to collaboration are deeply appreciated. By working together, we are building not only safer schools, but stronger communities. I wish you all a productive and insightful workshop, and may your discussions be rich, your understanding deepened, and your commitment renewed. That's the formal speech. So, our government has concentrated on including everyone in the national plan, in the national policies. Anything you put on for one, you have to put on for all and find a way to do it. You have to meet people where they are. When we decided to locate the new fire service in the Pine, we chose this spot. We chose this spot because the spot was conducive to what it is that we wanted to do. We had a pretty large acreage. It was relatively central. It met the requirements for the 7 minutes a town or whatever the standard is. And we picked it for our own purposes. You a sniper? Those who don't know that the other word of that other line of that song is "him a sniper," you all need to actually listen to some old music. We picked it for our purposes. Having picked it, we then had to factor who was around us. And the schools that are around us actually influence a lot of what we're doing, a lot of how we set up, a lot of follow-on things that came from that. I did not know the triggers for persons with autism before. I didn't know, right? Sometimes you see children, what we call, if we don't know, acting out. but you don't know why they do it. Sometimes you see a parent with a child that they can't get control, and you don't know the backstory, and you make a judgment. We started by having issues with the noise from the construction. And then we had issues with the dust. So we were trying to figure out how to battle the noise from the construction and the dust. But then it became clear to us, quite frankly, if the noise from the construction is triggering some of the children, then what's going to happen when the station is in operation? What's going to happen when a fire appliance leaves the station under siren? Right? How are we going to manage what we need to do with protecting the children and making it the most comfortable for them and not disrupting the way they operate? So we took a decision. We have to include everybody in what it is that we're doing. We can't just drop a fire station right there and call it a day and start to operate the fire station. No. The schools must be involved in what we do. The teachers must be involved. We must be able to get feedback. We must take every step to accommodate everyone in our neighborhood, in particular because they are among the most vulnerable. So things like policies when we leave, I keep saying we, I see myself as y'all. When wanna leave the station, there has to be a buffer area before you can put on the siren, right? And that means we have to make arrangements with MTW to manage the traffic lights, probably trigger the traffic lights from the station. We have to have what's the best way to go to get to where we need to get to, but cause minimal disruption, all them sort of things. And then we also have to have a Big Brother program. Those kids must see those big red trucks as something exciting and not something frightening. They must see you as big brothers and not the enemy or somebody who's causing them pain. As much as we can, we must help them to understand what goes on in a fire service. And this is all part of their developmental progress that they would not actually necessarily have if you all were not there. So in addition to being first responders, lifesavers, fire officers, all them things, you all know teachers, big brothers, mentors, friends to kids who need it most. When I was a child at St. Giles, I used to love to see fire engines. And I didn't make the association every time I saw a fire engine, somebody's house was burning, right? I just love to see the fire engine. I love to see the man jump up anything with the helmets on. Back then they had the women, right? Now we have a whole set of you. And more to come, hopefully. But it was the excitement of seeing the fire truck. I wanted to be a fire officer. Until I saw a plane, I want to be a pilot. Somewhere they want to be a priest. Right? But it's about associations, about positive associations. So you have a chance to make a difference to these kids in a way that you actually you possibly can't understand right now. But communication, let's get back to the word communication. Unless I know what you need, I can't give it to you. Unless I can understand what you're saying, then you and I are both in peril. So we need to try to understand everybody that we interact with. If you go to a house and there's a child with autism or a child on the spectrum, that child may have a critical bit of information, like there's somebody else upstairs in a room, or there's a gas bottle right there close to where the fire is going. Unless we can actually extract that information, everybody's at risk. So it is our duty, especially because of where we are, to take that as a catalyst for understanding this special population in Bar. Because it's not just children. We might be talking about children with a challenge, but they're adults with a challenge. Some people develop to a certain level and stop and don't go past that. You must be able to communicate and deal with them, because your ability to bridge that gap may save a life. Actually, it might save your life. So I issued this challenge to you. Don't see this as something else that you got to do. I know so y'all have to jump out that building and scale down that thing out there by Arch Hall and do other interesting things, right? Sometimes we go into class and we don't want to be there. We don't want to be there because it's another thing you got to do, it's another test you got to take, it's another thing you got to learn. This should not be that for you. This should be an opportunity to enhance your communication skills. And you may be surprised in your ability to learn how to communicate with this special group. It may actually help you in being able to communicate with other people in your life that you need to communicate with. Sometimes you have to get out of your own head and think to yourself, not what I'm saying, but what is the other person hearing? What are they trying to tell me? And if they're not getting what I'm saying, how can I say it differently? How can I de-escalate it? How can I tone it down? How can I say it 100 times until you actually understand what it is that I'm saying? It's a fantastic opportunity, and that opportunity is presented to us by virtue of where we are. These are our neighbors. We got to live as one big happy family. And the only way we can do it is by understanding our neighbors and being able to communicate with them. I want this special group to see you as friends. I want the image of the fire service to be a happy one, and the image of fire officers to provoke and evoke positive responses. I want that because of the relationship that you build with these kids, that when they hear the siren going off, it's not necessarily a trigger, but somewhere you have helped them to understand that you're going to do good with that noise. I didn't mean to lecture you all with all of this, but this is what happens when you give a politician a microphone. And quite frankly, I love my wife, I love my God, I love my family, but if I had to take a collective of the people in the world I love the most, I love children. Let us do right by them in all that we do. Let us embrace them, let us take them in. Let us, when y'all got downtime, stroll across. Stroll across. The more times that they see the uniform, the better. Stroll across, have a word with them. Include them in things. Talk to the school, make sure every child in there gets to go across to the fire station. Everyone. Make sure they get to go up in the truck. Encourage them to ask questions. Let the teachers help with the communication. Encourage them to ask questions. This is not an obligation. This is not a nuisance. This is not something you have to do. Make this into something that you want to do. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister Abrams. Colleagues, what's the key takeaway? What's that key word? I didn't hear you. Yes, communication. And we want to thank the minister very much for giving some words of advice, guidance, and for enlightening us on government's policy as it relates to providing the services through the Barbados Fire Service. And we are indeed very, very happy that Minister Abrams was able to be here this morning to address us. At this time, we are going to prepare ourselves for the first presentation. Thank you. Our first presenter is Miss Thea Boyne, a trained graduate teacher at the Irvin Wilson School. Ms. Boyne is experienced and very knowledgeable in the field of special needs education, and I'm aware that she's also very passionate about literacy and reading development. Ms. Boyne will speak to us on the topic of deafness and hearing impairment, what we need to do and what we need to be aware of. Please welcome her as she comes to present.
Anybody can tell me what I just said? Ah, fair enough. Okay, so I just started by introducing myself. And the reason I did it that way, I introduced myself in sign language, because we are talking about communication. And when we are talking about persons that are deaf, they are living in a hearing world. And the same way where I was communicating to you, but you did not understand me, if we are just going to be using words to speak to persons that are deaf, they're going to feel the same way, very lost, very confused about what is that you're trying to communicate to them. Okay, so today I just want to try to sensitize you to deafness, to let you know how we communicate, to probably teach you a couple of signs so that you can use them if need be. This is just a start. I would have passed around a handout. I'm not sure if there's enough, but you can share. And it's just basically a start for what we can do moving forward. So as a first responder, there's a good chance that you're going to communicate with persons that are deaf. And as we said, right next door at the Irvin Wilson School, we have a population of persons that are deaf, visually impaired, and autistic. But today I am going to focus on the persons that are deaf. All right, so deaf, the definition is someone with a profound hearing loss who requires accommodation to help communication with others. So we have different forms of deafness. There's a little d deaf, so that's little d deaf. Big D deaf is actually a member of a cultural minority that primarily uses sign language as their primary language. So it is a case that most persons that are deaf prefer to be called deaf rather than hearing impaired. So you might hear the term hearing impaired, but the persons in the deaf community, big D, prefer to be called deaf. And we also have persons that are hard of hearing. Normally we'll hear the term deaf and hard of hearing. Hard of hearing persons are someone with a mild to severe hearing loss who may have spoken communication, but it may be a little difficult. So they may have problem pronouncing certain words or hearing certain songs. So they may not be able to, you can sometimes tell when they're talking because their speech doesn't sound quite there. There's something missing, right? So those persons are normally hard of hearing. But they may use assistive technology and sign language to communicate as well. And then we have hearing impaired, which is a medical or government term for someone with a hearing loss. And hearing deafness is an invisible disability. You don't normally see it. You can't normally identify a person that is deaf. We do have persons that are deaf, however, that may have a device that they wear on their ears or on their head, a hearing aid that will go around the ear and in a mold that goes inside. Or they may have a cochlear, which actually, some of them are different. There's some that goes around the ear. There's no mold. That is because it's a surgery that they would have had that is medically implanted, so they would actually have a device that seems to just stick to the side of their head because there's a magnet, it's magnetized. I have a student in my class, she doesn't have the part that goes around the ear, it's just the magnetized part that sticks there, and she has a little clip so it stays secure, right? But not all persons that are deaf wear some sort of hearing aid or some sort of device to identify that they're deaf. So it's still a good way to be able to communicate. And what I want to teach you first thing is that anybody can tell me what it is, how it is that deaf communicate? What do they use to communicate? Sign language, that's right. Now, sign language is multifaceted. Sign language is not just about using your hands because it involves your entire body. So for instance, I may say, what do you think I'm saying? I'm sad. I'm sad. But how would it if I say, exactly, you think I'm saying happy because my facial expression does not match what I am signing. This is actually a sign for sad. This is a sign for happy. But I can't do, it does not match. And that would then carry a different message exactly to a person that is deaf. Because if you're saying your face, it does not. Also, it deals with your facial expression, your body language as well. I'm excited. My body is showing, it's emoting what is that I'm trying to express. So it's entire body that you're using. So it's sign language is not only about using your hands, very important. But your facial expressions and your body language must match as well. I'm aware, however, that obviously if you're going to be responding and you're in your full gear and everything, your facial expression is not necessarily going to be something that you can emote, but just information for you to be aware of, because you may not always interact with persons in your full gear, how you are now. You may have interactions as well. So it's just a good way to understand that it's not just about your hands, but it's also about your entire body. As a first contact with persons that are deaf, I think one of the first things that you probably, if you are trying to communicate with someone and they're giving you a blank expression, they're not understanding what it is that you're saying. One of the first signs that I think you should learn is the sign for deaf, right? Because then that is a way, usually when you sign deaf, you are asking the person if they're deaf, and they will normally respond either with a yes or no, a nod, or shake head. So the sign for deaf, you're using your pointer finger, and when I say dominant hand means the hand that you normally write with. That's your dominant hand. So you're gonna raise your dominant hand, your pointer finger, and you're gonna point to your ear and point to your mouth. That's the sign for deaf, right? And normally when we're asking questions, normally your shoulders go up, your eyebrows go down. It's like, you're not sure what the answer is to what you're saying. So you're but even in this, you're asking deaf in terms of just to find out if the person may be deaf. An answer they may give you may be a yes. This is a fist that you're making. Nodding the head, normally when you're doing anything affirmative, again, whole body, so your head is also going to go ahead with that, nodding. Or a no, which is that you're going to have your 3 fingers like this and you're going to tap them, no, and that goes with a shake head, no, right? But depending on what's going on, they may also do just a shake head, a nod, or a shake head. So then you're asking deaf, you're looking for either yes, or no, right? So that's what you're looking for. All right, so what we want to first talk about, if I'm in a room, for example, someone in back, and I want to get their attention, what's something that I would do if I want to get your attention? Yeah, I will wave, right, to try to get your attention. And then if I want to tell you something, and we are in a big room, and I do not necessarily think I have the capacity to shout to you, I may make certain gestures. I may say, what do you think I'm telling you to do? Call me, right? Now, the thing about it is that this is all sort of a sign language. Many times we actually use some signs that we use formally that you don't even know that you're signing, right? And even if you don't know a sign, if you think there's a gesture that you can use that you think will be able to help the person understand you, use it. Because especially if you're talking about a life and death situation, or you're talking about something where you really need to get the person to understand you, anything that you can use is better than nothing. Right? So it's important for you to do that. Now, when you're talking to a person or communicating to a person that is deaf, the louder you talk, they're still not going to hear you. So it makes no sense to show. I was going to do that, but I didn't want to actually try that just now. Do not talk any louder. Your normal tone is fine. What I will say though, if possible, if you can have anything blocking your mouth is best. So for instance, don't have your hand by your mouth. If you can raise, I don't know how your helmets are or whatever the case is, if you can make sure that your mouth is visible, that is always best. Because they want to be able to see what you're saying, because whatever is lost on the hands, you can sometimes gain it on the lips. So it's an instance because they are so accustomed to persons talking to them. Many of the deaf have learned some form of lip reading. So even if you may not have all these signs, they may still be able to understand some of what you're saying. So having your mouth clearly visible is very important. So that we had, even during COVID, one of the things that we did at the School for the Deaf, we got these masks that actually had a clear a clear plastic by the mouth, so that way when we were still communicating to our students, they could still catch things on our lips. Because sometimes you are signing, they may not understand everything because they're still learning. You are able to have better communication once you have no barrier in front of your mouth. All right? And another thing as well, making eye contact is very important. If I'm talking to you, I'm not going to be talking to Mrs. Little over here and looking in this direction. I'm going to look at her. Try to make eye contact with the person that you're talking to. You want to make sure they understand you are talking to them, right? So that way it's very clear communication that you are the person I'm trying to communicate with. Another thing as well, if a person that is deaf is backing you, or even if they're to the side of you, if you want to get their attention, we're not gonna and slap them. We're gonna a little tap, right? If you can't get someone else that's close to them to tap them, that is a good way to get their attention. If, for instance, you are, and I use this in my classroom all the time, you're in an actual building and you are calling someone at one side and you happen to be close to the door, normally, what do we have by the door on the wall? Light switch, that's correct. You flip the light switch. Any deaf person, once you flip that light switch, is going to turn around because something has changed in their environment and they're going to look around. So they're going to find the source of who turned that on, who turned that off, and they're going to look. That happens in my classroom many times if they're doing an activity and I want to get their attention. Once I flip that switch, everybody eyes on me because they know the light switch is at the door, so you're going to turn your head towards the door. Depending on the room that you're in as well, our classroom normally have and the hall have the floor can send vibrations easily. So sometimes we do a on the floor and that they feel the vibration, or we do a on the desk or on the board. That also either the loud sound, because as I said, deafness, once you hear the term deaf doesn't mean you cannot hear anything at all. You go from mild to profound deaf. And most persons are somewhere in between there, and they may have some sort of hearing that very, very loud songs, they may actually hear something and react to it. So that is also important as well. So we can flash the light, you can wave, tap, or hit on some sort of surface to try to get their attention. All right. Now, what I can also say, depending on the situation you're in, I don't know if you are like the police officers that normally have like a little pad with you. Sometimes too, if all else fails, if you have a little pad and a pen, you can write the instruction that you want, and they will read it and write back their response if you are not getting anywhere. I will also say this, that depending on the situation that you're in, don't always rely on persons around that may say, yeah, I know sign language, unless you know for sure, because sometimes the person may not quite know exactly how to convey what it is you want, or they might just be signing gibberish. So don't always depend on someone that say, yeah, because you don't know if they're fully conveying what it is that you want the person to know, right? So it's better when in doubt, use the pad, or try your best using some sort of gesture to get them in terms of understanding what it is that you want to say. Another thing that I would say that would be very beneficial, we usually say that if you don't know a word, don't use sign language. Don't finger spell it, right? But I think in some instances, it is still good that if it's like, I don't want to say you want to finger spell supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, but like help. If you forget what the sign for help, you can finger spell it. I think learning basic sign language, and also that includes the letters of the alphabet, is very important, because sometimes you may forget a word, but you know how to spell it. And then you can spell it, and you can be able to assist them with how it is that with whatever it is that you're trying to communicate to them, right? And usually, again, when you're signing, you're using your dominant hand. That is the one that you're going to use, right? Right. Now, you each have a handout, so I just wanted to teach you a couple of basic signs, so that way, if you were indeed in a situation where you needed to have some of these signs, it would be to your benefit. All right, so we have, I actually need one, sorry. First one, fire. Now, the sign for fire, we're going to have both hands, so we're using both hands. They're going to be open, and we're actually going to wiggle our fingers and go up and down. This is sign for fire. So to me, it kind of looks like flames rising. Anytime I teach, we're going up and down, alternating your hands, so not together, alternating hands, right? And so I have pictures. Obviously, paper is so big, but I also have a kind of a description of how it's supposed to be done. Now, if, for instance, the person was hurt, I'm not doing it in order here, but I do have hurt on there. The sign for hurt, again, both hands, your pointer fingers, and you're going to twist as you come in. Hurt, hurt. And again, if this can also be used as a question. So if are you hurt? And your shoulders will come up, your eyebrows go down, hurt. And then you can also add that with where. So like, where are you hurt? So that person can let you know somewhere is hurting. Now, in a response to that, hurt is, sorry? Oh, twist and come in, twist and come in. In response to that, hurt is a directional sign. So in the case of hurt, when a person's responding, they can move that sign to wherever on their body is hurting. So they may say this, what do you think that means? Your head is hurting. If you do down here, your knee. So wherever it is you move the sign hurt, that means that they're trying to tell you that is where I'm hurting, right? So you can see then that that is where where the hurt is happening. Now then, if for instance you may want to tell them, all right, I'm going to try to take you to the doctor. The sign for doctor, we have two signs. Well, we normally initialize some signs. So the letter D is this. So we are actually having our pointer finger with this space here. And we're going to tap twice on our wrist, the inside of our wrist, like if you're taking a pulse. Sign for doctor. You may also see just like this as well. The sign for doctor, letter M, like for medic. So doctor, right? So you're letting them know, okay, we're going to get you a doctor, right? Another sign that we have is stop. So for instance, somebody was coming towards you, don't want to come anymore. And you are going to have your non-dominant hand flat. Your next hand is going to come down, stop. Stop. But trust me, if you do like this, everybody know that means stop. So even if you forget that this is stop, you do like this, they're going to know to stop. So again, remember, gestures that we do commonly, once you do that, they will still be able to understand, because many of them live in households where everybody may not know how to sign. And they still have adapted and learned how to communicate with other persons that are not signing to them. Okay? All right. Then, for instance, you want to say, okay, we need to go outside. So the sign for outside, we're going to have our hand kind of cupped here, our non-dominant hand. So for me, it will be my left hand. And then I'm going to pinch like this, my right hand, and I'm going to start with the in. I'm going to bring it out. So out, right? Now we can say out. They will understand you mean to go out. But we can also add a go out. So these are two hands like this. Go out, as in we need to go outside, right? And then also, because if they're hurt and they wanted to get help, the sign for help, we're also going to have that non-dominant hand. We're going to make the thumbs up. With our dominant hand, we're going to rest it on that, and we're going to bring it up. So this, the non-dominant hand, is the one that's actually helping that hand to move. Help is also directional. So for instance, if you're asking, do you want me to help you? It comes from me to you, right? So this is just a random. So for instance, if I want Ms. Balgobin to help Miss Bell, I would go from Mrs. Balgobin to Mrs. Bell. So it is a directional sign. But in your case, you probably want to know if they want your help. So it's coming from you to them. Do you need my help? Right? Then the sign for wait. Now the sign for wait can be similar to the sign for fire in terms of how the fingers, we're using both hands and how we're wiggling our fingers, well, moving our hands kind of. While with fire, we're up and down with this spirit fingers, I say. With wait, it is more of a, you're going to keep one hand slightly above the other, and we are going to do, we're still wiggling those fingers, but we're kind of moving inwards, like doing a circular rotation for our weight, right? So we have fire up and down, but weight is going this way. This may be a lot, I understand. And this is, as I said, just a starter for you in terms of trying to enlighten you, sensitize you about how we communicate with persons that are deaf. You can do your own homework in terms of there are many classes on, as I call it, University of YouTube, that you can go on and you can ask. But I will say that make sure, because in Barbados we use like a version of ASL, as in our students will more understand that language, just like how Spanish and French and is very different from English. You have your other sign languages that if you use those, nobody here is going to understand you. So even although we are called, or we're called Little Britain, we do not use the British Sign Language system. Because when I went to study, I actually did my degree in the education of the deaf and hard of hearing. I had to go to the States, because if I went to the UK, I would come back here and no one that is deaf in Barbados, unless they have ever lived in the UK, who would understand what I am saying. So you still have to be careful when you're signing. So we have to take the good and the bad, and we also have to make sure that you are aware there are different sign languages. So you're looking for ASL. I found it was a Grenadian, I don't have the site on me, but I'll probably see if I can send it. A teacher in Grenada, our school in Grenada, has deaf students. During COVID, they started a video channel on YouTube, and they have some really great videos on there that is more Caribbean based that I think is also good, right? Just a tip there. All right, so we're gonna do a little, I don't want to say a test, but I'd like a volunteer or two, if possible. Let's see how much you remember. You can take a quick look at that paper, and let's see how much you remember in terms of signing these emergency signs. But before we do that, let's go over them quickly. So we have fire. What's this one? Doctor, good. Then we have help. We also have where, good. Hurt. Stop, right? Wait. Outside, right. So those, I think I went through all of them. Those are the signs. Anybody feels brave enough? And you all fight fires every day. This is like, well, not every day, but on a regular basis. Should be cake. Anybody brave enough to come and see what they remember? All right, come over here. Come over. She needs you over here. Come over here. All right, number one, though, you're going to need to lose the paper because we can't sign with anything in our hands. We need our hands free in order to communicate, right? So we can't sign. All right, so we are going to, you can decide between yourselves, have a short little conversation. I'm telling you what you're signing, you're not choosing. So the easier one. So basically one of you is the firefighter and one of you would be the person that you're rescuing, the victim, right? So basically you are going to, I want a person to go over this side, whoever's the firefighter. Just listen to the instructions first and then we can decide, right? So you're going to enter the room. And then you are going to, since there is a light switch over there, just saying, you're going to enter the room and you're going to try to get the person's attention. You're going to shout first, realize that they're not paying you any attention. So you're thinking, maybe this person is deaf. And so you're going to try to get their attention. So what you're going to do to get their attention? Then once you get their attention, you're going to tell them, fire. And then you're going to just tell them, wait. Then you're going to come towards them and just ask them if they're hurt. So those are the 3 signs you are signing. 3 signs. So you're telling them fire, wait, and then you're going to ask them if they're hurt. But first you have to get their attention. So you decide who is the deaf person and who is the person that is the fire officer. Yes, because if, for example, you come and you say, actually, we also will probably add in deaf in there, so that's 4. So the first, but you will do deaf when you come, when you first do get their attention, ask if they're deaf, say there's a fire, come towards them and ask if they're hurt, okay? And the person then, obviously, if you're deaf, you have to respond. You're saying you're deaf, so you have to respond affirmative that you're deaf. And then when they ask if you're hurt, you have to tell them where you're hurt. Okay? So the person that is the patient only doing 2 responses. You don't have to necessarily say anything when they tell you it's a fire. Okay? Do we understand? Are we clear? We do need that again? Sorry?
Over again.
Okay, all right. So.
What you do, I'm going to do what I can remember.
No problem.
And tell me what you need to do.
Sure, but remember we want to start by getting her attention.
Right.
Yeah, so you got to look this direction, so you are not. Remember you can use your words too, because you not sure. All right. All right. No, you come towards her. Come towards her. Then you're going to ask her if she's hurt. thought that was well done. Thought that was well done. So I understand he was trying to tell her, I want you to go outside, right? We're going outside. Look, the exit there. We're going outside. So you see, even although he may not have remembered everything, we still understood. And I'm sure that a person that is deaf will be able to understand what it is that he was trying to convey. And also, this is just when you visit the school for the deaf, and we may, you're trying to show your appreciation to the students. This just an aside. Just now how we were clapping for them because the deaf, they do not hear. We have something called the deaf applause, which is like this. So this is how you show your appreciation for something that they may have done, or you're showing encouragement, right? So I think that I've covered basically everything that I want to do. Are you have any questions, anything that you wanted to have clarified? Yes, please. Yeah, in terms of, I think it is still always good to be slow and clear, slow and steady, so that way you want to make sure, even when you're talking, we try to form each word before we go on to the next. There, you want to make sure that you do a sign, probably wait for response depending on what you're doing, and then go on to the next sign, right? So you just want to make sure that they're clear on what you're trying to ask them. Yes, please.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
I noticed that when he asked if she was hurt, and she said, yes, my foot is hurting, that he attempted to hold the foot and so on. Is there any difficulty in the responder touching a deaf person?
I don't think it necessarily would be because they are not necessarily, sometimes, well, I can't say everyone, but for most persons, the only thing that is wrong with them is that they can't hear you. So they'll be able to respond as anybody else. So they're not going to necessarily have triggers as a person with autism may have. What he probably could have said at a time is, okay, I'm going to help you. Because obviously if her foot is hurting, she's not going to be able to probably walk on it properly. So let me just let you know first, I'm going to assist you and then touch you, as opposed to touching you first. Because something you probably would do. I'm sure, I don't know how you were trained, but I'm sure you let the person know what you're going to do first before you actually do it. So that's the way help will come in. Okay, well, then since you're hurt, let me help you. Right, any other questions? Okay, well, I just want to thank you very much for this opportunity. Oh, I have a question? Yay! Oh, she probably is not. Yes, please. The mic.
Good morning.
Yes, please.
It is ironic I'm next door to you, principal at Wilkie, and I don't know these things.
Well, I'm glad you're here to be informed.
I have, coincidentally, Lionel. I don't know if you remember him.
Yes.
He's with us. So I pick up a few things like good morning, thank you. But in the case, I was just thinking just now, in the case of a fire, where we're doing a fire drill, we have to be cognizant of some of these things to be able to communicate to him.
Yes, because at our school, all of the bells, so when we have the bell rings for the start of school, whatever the case is, there's a light in each classroom that flashes. It's a blue light that flashes in each classroom. And it makes a very loud sound. Anybody that first is in school be like, jump when they first hear it because it's so unexpected, right? So that helps with the students being able to be aware without a teacher probably saying, okay, it is time to go to break or whatever, because they're like other students. They know it's break time, they know it's lunchtime. So they see that, and I have a little 6-year-old, every time he'd be like, and tell everybody, line up. So he is very excited to say yes and tell everybody else to do, because you know the little ones like to boss about everybody else, right? But it would be good in his, because you do have Lionel there to probably have a plan in place, so that way if you do have an emergency that he is aware an emergency is going on.
It just made me really, it argues well for everything, but just looking at that situation just now, I kind of felt like scared, like, what if we had to rush out? He's the only person who's not hearing. I'm right next door to you, and I don't know half of these things. So I guess that we will have to communicate.
Yes, for sure. There's so many things, because even in terms of good morning, good afternoon, whatever, so many things that I could teach you, but obviously because we're short on time, I just thought these were the things that are more pertinent to what you would probably have to use, right? And so I think it's important that we probably even have, because we are in the process of doing our fire drills, so having that contact with persons, even though you're not right next door right now, you're still a stone throw away by the stoplights in terms of having you come in when we are doing our fire drill, so that way the children understand how that entire thing works. And yeah, I think that's about it. So thank you very yes, please.
Hi, good morning. Just a question. How hard is it for someone, like, let me say my age, to become deaf, to learn sign language?
To become deaf or to learn sign language? Which one?
No, like, if I become deaf tomorrow,
Oh.
obviously I can't hear now. So, to communicate with persons.
Honestly, sign language is a language. So any language that you learn going to have some level of difficulty. Usually you say that once the younger you are, the easier it is for you to pick up a language. But I think once you are willing and you're consistent with what you are learning, that it would help. And obviously, if you become deaf, there's a need, so you're going to need to. But the thing about it, I will also say, is don't do it alone. Involve other persons. I teach sign language classes on evenings to the National Disabilities Unit, and I always tell them, anytime you are practicing, practice with someone. Teach somebody. You also learn better when you teach somebody. If you don't have someone to teach, look in the mirror, because sometimes we think we are doing something, because I'm going to tell you do this, and you think you're doing this, but you're doing this. Like, for sometimes you think you are doing what you think you're doing, but you're actually not. So University YouTube, again, make sure it's ASL, and do it with a friend or a family member, and use the mirror. I will also say, because if you become deaf, even if you learn sign language and your family doesn't know sign language, you still out moot, because, for instance, they still can't communicate with you, because you will still, even if you become deaf, you can still talk. You're not going to lose your speech unless something happened where you actually had an accident to your vocal cords. You are still going to be able to talk. It's now that you need someone to communicate to you. You can be able to still communicate. So you're going to need your family member to learn the language as well, so that they can communicate to you. Yeah. All right, thank you very much.
Round of applause. Thank you so much. I think we're off to a wonderful start, and I hope you are looking forward to the other two presentations, and we're going to get started again at this time. The next presentation will focus on children with exceptionalities, and here to help us understand what this means is Mrs. Imelda Bell, Principal, Ann Hill School, and Mrs. Natalie Aline Hill, Senior Teacher at the Ann Hill School. They are both experienced educators in the field of special needs education. And as leaders in this field, they have the responsibility for developing school-based policies and programs to meet the educational needs of the students at the Ann Hill School. Please welcome them as they come to share with us.
Good morning, everyone. Good to see you.
Good morning.
June, you remember that little boy that they born about a couple years ago? Or your mother named Patsy or something? But last you see he?
Melda, I don't think I see he. Well, not since he born.
I wonder what happened to he. They must have got you locked up inside.
Why do miss do these things?
I know, girl, I know. We were seeing the swing of things. You know why Elsa remember? The other day somebody was telling me about my friend, cousin, that got a little boy. He real hard there's. He always running about and up in the tree and down on the floor. He like his cat cut out.
You know, sometimes these children has got problems.
But must he got some problems there for true, cause they see he real hard there's.
But you know, we mustn't look at it like that, you know. Something might really be going on with the child.
Well, I guess I hope they're able to get a little help free so that he could go school and thing and learn something like everybody else.
Well, you know, we ain't like in the old time days when they used to keep them home. They got things called, I think they'd be attached to primary schools.
Oh, you mean the special units?
Yes,
The special units and special schools. That is true. That
And then
is true.
after that, they got places like Ant Hill.
But that is true too. That is true too. All right, I can check you later.
See a girl again downtown.
All right. That's just a little snapshot of who we are at Ant Hill School. Any means necessary to get over our message. So this morning, we are letting you know, introducing you to who we are at the Ant Hill School. We cater to students of varying abilities from ages 11 to 18 plus. So some persons usually come or call and say, I'd like to get my child in. I inquire, how old is your child? 4 years old. I said, okay, this is not the school. Okay, so we are really catering to children who are teenagers, really. And the Ministry of Educational Transformation, they do the assignments of the students from the primary units and also primary schools across the island. We cater to students who are on the autism spectrum, those who have learning disabilities, emotional and behavioral disorders, ADHD, hyperactivity disorder, oppositional defiant disorder. That's those children who you would find, if you say go left, they'll go right. If you say sit, they will stand. If you say be quiet, they'll keep noise. And that is a challenge for us. Yes? We also have children with multiple disabilities. Some of them from birth, they would have been difficult births, so they have complications, speech language disorders as well, and other health impairments, because there are some children who might have diabetes, heart abnormalities, and seizure disorders. Those are a few of the things that we deal with our students. So this morning we want to define some of the exceptionalities, list some of the causes, highlight the general impact to daily routines, and then share some educational tips with you. So in years gone by, if you're of a certain vintage, you know, with some wisdom on top, you would know that in certain communities you went to, you would know that a child was born to a family, but you would have never seen them because they would have been hidden away, or they would have had very limited exposure and interaction with the community. But in 2007, I believe, Barbados signed on to the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. And in Article 24, it says that persons with disabilities are not excluded from general education system on the basis of their disability, and that children with disabilities are not to be excluded from free compulsory education. Yes? So because we are a part of that convention, and we would have ratified it in 2013, this is our mandate. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. You'll hear some people saying, yes, this child is active, always on the go, never sitting down, can't keep quiet, does not sleep, always moving. And they are, it is a neurodevelopmental disorder. That means it has to do with the functions of the brain, and is consistent with inattention, hyperactivity, and impulsivity. It affects children and adults and can impact various aspects of their lives, including their education, their work, and their relationships. We had an officer at the Ministry of Education who would often say, special needs does not go away, it grows up. So in our day-to-day life, we are interacting with persons who have ADHD as well. It's just to know it. Yes? So I have a myth. The child real hyper. He real hard dares. He don't cut out. it's just an excuse for bad behavior. It actually is a neurodevelopmental disorder with biological underpinnings. In other words, the brain, if you study the brain of a person who is typically developing and those who are having ADHD, the neural mechanism actually looks different in those two persons. So we have to be always mindful of that. It's characterized by difficulty sustaining attention and following through on tasks. Then there's hyperactive impulsive type, marked by excessive fidgeting, restlessness, and impulsive behavior. And you can also have the combined variant with both inattention and hyperactivity and impulsivity. Usually when new persons come to my school, new members of staff, I always remind them, with my students, they will act first and think after. Because if it feels like something they want to do, they will usually do it. But when I say, okay, all right, let's stop. Let's think about this. What could have been a better way for you to do this? Then it becomes like an aha moment. You know, the bulb goes off. Well, ma'am, I should have gone and asked for help, tell a teacher, instead of kicking him when he passed by. Yes? One of the other challenges that we have are students living with autism. It is a developmental disability significantly affecting verbal and nonverbal communication, social interaction, and is usually evident before age 3, with that adversely affects children's educational performance. So you will find someone, they might have a baby, and as they grow, there is that lack of eye contact. They might not like to be touched. They might be very irritable. As they grow up, you might find they prefer to play alone, not socialize with the other children in the family or other family members. As they grow older, you might find that it is difficult for them to understand only oral instructions. As they grow older, you might find that there is some repetitive systemic behavior that you might notice in them. So some other characteristics of the autism are engagement in repetitive activities, stereotyped movement such as stimming. This is what it looks like. You might see a child doing this almost involuntarily. You might also see a rock. You might also see pacing. Sometimes they can also engage in repetitive injurious behavior, so they might pinch themselves, or they might scratch, or they might bite. With therapies, they are able to manage, cope, and regulate their behavior as they get older. They are often resistant to environmental change or change in daily routine and unusual sensory experiences. So this is where we would have been talking about hypersensitivity to sound, the sound of a siren. If we hear it at, I don't know, 100 decibels or whatever, they might be experiencing a much higher because of the sensitivity of their ears. And some children will actually cover their ears when they hear loud noises, or they try to run to secure areas. They might go under the bench or under the table or whatever to get away from the sound. And in terms of emergencies, that's why it's so important for us to partner and have those emergency drills, because they, like the routine. I come in, I put down my bag, I go to my desk, I write, I have break, I play, I have lunch, I do something in the afternoon, I go home. Anything that is outside of the norm also always, most of the time, creates a challenge, more so in the younger than the older, because as they grow, part of what we do is help them to be flexible and adaptive as much as is possible. All right. Autism is a lifelong condition and affects people from all backgrounds. So it's no respecter. It's not only for poor people, black people, white people, Asian, whatever. Currently, though, we find that there are more males than females diagnosed with autism. And it is estimated that 1 in every 100 people in the world are on the spectrum, and this is by the World Health Organization. In my studies and in my experience, always remember that when you meet one person with autism, that is one person with autism, because we might have 5 persons with autism in the room and they react differently to various stimuli and challenges. So you really need to be cognizant of this, because what will work for one might not necessarily work for another. And someone asked earlier about touching. There are some persons who are on the spectrum who do not like to be touched. So in your instructions and in your interactions, it is better to speak and have that nice distance in terms of their personal space. Another one of our challenges our children live with is cerebral palsy. It is a physical disability that affects movement and posture. It is the result of a combination of events before, during, or after birth that can lead to an injury in the baby's developing brain. So as a result, we find that children might have spastic, dyskinetic, ataxic, or mixed type of cerebral palsy. It affects them in many different ways: their body movement, their muscle control, their muscle coordination, tone, reflex, posture, and balance. It is a lifelong condition, and some signs of CP can worsen over time. You find that some persons might have problems with their arms, with their legs, their face, their mouth, some with one side of their body as a result of cerebral palsy. So some of the physical and cognitive impairments could be inability to walk or talk, difficulties with bladder control, saliva control and swallowing, behavioral problems, intellectual disabilities, severe vision impairment, and epilepsy. So some of our students, some children rather, might have to use different devices to assist them as they go on. In our school, we have children with mild CP, so you might see that they have a gait, like they're not walking as a typical person. They might have like a little limp. And then we have a child with a walker. So that is something that to be cognizant of when you are interacting with them and having emergency drills and things like that. So we always have to have access to the ramp, and we also have, as part of our plan, who would buddy with these children who are not able to move along the corridors and into the safe area. So we usually assign a buddy, or depending on the severity, children who will or a teacher who would lift that student to safety as they go along. So I'm going to turn over to Ms. Hill now, Natalie. She will take you through the second half, and then we'll have questions. Thank you so much.
So, you heard, my name is Natalie, and I am going to be talking to you about conduct disorder. At our school, we have a student who does have conduct disorder, and he's very dysregulated. So, I'm going to tell you about it, and I'll tell you a little bit about him. Conduct disorder is a mental health condition typically diagnosed in children or adolescents. It involves persistent patterns of behavior that violates the rights of others and social norms. Children with conduct disorder often exhibit aggressive behaviors, destructive behaviors, they can be deceitful, and they love to break rules. Conduct disorder is more common in boys than girls and is often identified during school years. It may lead to antisocial behavior patterns in adulthood if not addressed early. Some of the causes of conduct disorder, it can be genetic, so family history of behavioral disorders and antisocial behavior, or maybe like with my student, his parents both had mental health issues. Actually, they met in psyche, so you will understand that combination. Environmental factors, family stresses, abuse, neglect, peer influence, and exposure to violence at an early age, that too can contribute to conduct disorder, or sometimes we call it oppositional defiant disorder. The two are closely linked. And biological factors, issues in the brain structure, or functions affecting behavior and impulse control. So these are some of the behaviors you will find. Aggressive behaviors, so they usually get into physical fights. They may be bullies. Some of them like to harm animals and people. They like to lie, steal, manipulate others. They like to violate rules, so you will have incidences of truancy, running away, breaking curfew. Callousness, so they lack empathy. You will not hear sorry out of them. They're disrespectful. They sometimes they throw tantrums frequently. They can get into substance abuse, and they're very irritable. So with our students, sometimes person next door, he's very defiant. You might see him run over into the road, those kinds of things. So just be aware. Persons with intellectual challenges. Intellectual challenges is defined as, well, before it was referred to as mental retardation. Now we call it intellectual challenges. It's characterized by below average intelligence or mental ability and a lack of necessary skills for day-to-day living. Someone with an intellectual disability has limitations in two areas, and these are the two areas. Generally, intellectual functioning, also known as IQ. This refers to a person's ability to learn, reason, make decisions, and solve problems, and adaptive behaviors. These are skills necessary for day-to-day life, such as being able to communicate effectively, interact with others, and take care of one's own self. Causes are generally genetic in nature. Sometimes an intellectual disability is caused by an abnormal gene inherited from the parent, an error within the genes combination, or other reasons during birth, like maybe something happened. Generally, the genetic conditions are Down syndrome or Fragile X syndrome. Complications during pregnancy can also result in intellectual disabilities. An intellectual disability can result when the baby does not develop inside the mother properly. For example, there may be a problem with the way the baby cells divide, or maybe if the mother is drinking, that can result in fecal alcohol syndrome. If you get sick, you get something like rubella, that can also impact on the pregnancy and cause the baby to have a delay or an intellectual disability. Causes: problems during birth, which I mentioned before; disease, which I mentioned before. Not, or sometimes it's really nothing. We do not know. The reason is unknown. In 2/3 of all children who have intellectual disabilities, the cause is unknown. We do have a student who has muscular dystrophy, and this is very a degenerative disease. It is an inherited genetic condition that gradually causes the muscles to weaken, leading to an increased level of disability. MD is a progressive condition, which means it gets worse over time. So like with our student, he would have come to the school walking, and now he's in a wheelchair. So that's something to think about. We will have a wheelchair-bound person and one person with their walker. So we have to obviously make accommodations for him when we're thinking about exiting the building and so on. Muscular dystrophy is caused by changes or mutations in the genes responsible for the structure and functioning of a person's muscles. The mutation causes changes in the muscle fibers that interferes with the muscle's ability to function. And some general awareness for you. When communicating with our students with exceptionalities, please speak slowly and clearly. And sometimes we generally might give two-step instructions. Come here, go down the stairs, turn to the left. But sometimes you have to really break it down. You may have to one instruction at a time. Slow and steady always wins the race, basically. Allow time for the student to process the information, because sometimes it's not necessarily that they're not hearing you, but it's in the procession that's going on in the brain. So it takes them a while. So you might say something now, and they get it a couple minutes later. So sometimes you have to slow yourself down. Obviously, sirens and alarms and engine noises can be very distressing and overwhelming for some of our students with sensory processing disorder or autism. So you have to be the sense of calm. When you come in, you can't seem agitated too, because then they get even more agitated. So you have to make sure that you're calm even if the situation is difficult. And reassure them that they're safe and they're okay. It's going to be all right. Be aware that sudden noises can trigger meltdowns. So like, if you have the noise, my Kalia will start screaming. Or she might lose focus and get very anxious and start to shake and fidget. But keep reassuring, keep talking, because she can understand you. It's just that she will be in a space where she is a little dysregulated. Students with developmental and cognitive disabilities may be afraid or anxious and generally not like strangers. So usually when we have persons coming on the plant, we will tell them before, okay, this is happening, someone is coming. We talk them through the process. And even if you can't prepare, sometimes it's just a matter of giving them a chance to come to grips with the fact that their structure is thrown off a bit. Always allow the child, always see the child first and the disability last. They're children first who just happen to have autism or Down syndrome or whatever, but they're still children. I hope that we can continue to collaborate and work together as good neighbors should, and know that we're always here. Anytime you have any questions, feel free to come next door, and we will be coming next door to visit. Thank you. Do you have any questions for us? I know it was a lot, and it was a little heavier. I didn't get to be fun like Tia. Any questions?
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
In your experience as it relates to children with special needs, do you find that there are, I won't say more loving, but you tend to find that you have a lot more admiration. There are a lot more, and I'm saying that because I'm speaking from experience, and I find that there are extremely loving children.
I do. I think generally at our school, and I have been in special ed for, oh Lord, I don't want to age myself now, 25 years. But generally, yes, I will agree with you. Some of them, but I will say some, I will qualify it. Some of them can be loving and kind and touchy and like to hug and love on you, but there are also the other ones who don't. So there's a balance. Like everything else is a bell curve basically, left and right, balance. So yes, there are some students who are very loving, and if you come on our plant, they'll want to hug you and give you a high five or not, because we tend to tell them not to be too, respect others' personal space. Everybody's not always going to be nice to you or might like you touching them. So we try to get them to know these things, because remember, every child is going to become an adult. So we don't want our adults with special needs going hugging people, because they will not like it. So, yeah.
Question.
Sure.
The students with behavioral disabilities, how do you go about dealing with them? You have a situation where there may be an emergency and first responders turned up. How do you go about addressing that situation?
I'll take this one. One of the things that we seek to do at all times is to, like Natalie would have said, walk them through the process. So we do a lot of talking and demonstrating and real world activities so that they literally know where to walk. When there is an emergency, they know the signal. We teach them, so we have to micro teach all of these things so that when something does happen, as much as is possible, barring the nerves and stuff like that, that they're able to follow through. And you would find that they will usually follow the instructions. So I think they can also pick up and sense when there is danger, because there are some children who would take their time and, saunter along. But if something changes drastically, like there's smoke in the atmosphere and they realize that all the teachers are shuttling everybody, some of the ones who were, a little lackadaisical when there was no smoke, when they see the smoke, they're in the line and they're walking down there to the safe area. But it's constant practice and walking them through the process that is most, beneficial to them.
And I will add too, we do a lot of modeling. So we will have scenarios where, okay, this is happening, what will we do next? And we practice a lot, generally. We have to.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
I'm very curious as it relates to the care and education of these type of students. I know generally in the mainstream of the educational system, around the age of 14, 15, you can see people leaving the educational system. My question, how long does people with these challenges remain under your care? And what is the outlet for those persons after they have graduated, so to speak, from your institution?
Okay. Well, we cater to the 11 to 18 plus. And right now we have a thriving job attachment program, because we operate kind kind of like a secondary school, a hybrid of
Ish.
ish. Yeah. So we have partnered with Sandals, Shaker Bay, a whole set of the hotels. And we have a living skills curriculum. So students get the opportunity to practice housekeeping and those kinds of things. And then we try to transition those who can into work. So they do job attachment at my school. Once you're in 5th year, you usually will be in the job attachment program for at least 2 days. So you come to school Monday to Wednesday, Thursday and Friday you go to work. And they get a stipend and everything. Once they work well, some of the organizations we partner with will keep them, so they go into full-time work. Those students who cannot work, some go to AC Graham workshop after they leave us, because that's like a adult workshop. And some might go to Challenger for their adult workshop. There's a new private one, which is
Center.
called, Derek Smith also has a workshop for adults, and you can go there well into your 30s. Then there's lifelong learning as well. So there are some institutions that cater after. But once our students are capable, we really want them to transition into work.
So if I might add here as well, there are some students who actually transition into further education. We have an MOU with the SJPI, and some of our students who can manage that, they go into the AGS. We would have had someone in AGSI, we would have had someone in
Clothing.
home ec and clothing. We also have students who would have done the Barbados Youth Advanced Core. And so we try to fit the student who is graduating into a placement that is best suited to their ability.
Any other questions? Okay. One more.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Question, how feasible and are you able to give a time frame for if an incident was to take place at your facility in terms of evacuating children who may be self-regulating at that particular time?
Actually, I don't know if you would have been aware last term, when all the schools had the bomb scares, we were able to get out of our plant within possibly like 2 to 3 minutes. And at that time, I had a student that was behaving bad, but what happens is all the big boys get him to go with you. We use our students to help each other along. So yeah, so it kind of works. So and they get on each other. Come along when you dead on looking at you, and we're going, we're going. So everybody works together. Teachers, students. We have 18-year-olds, big strapping, 6'5" young men. So yeah.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Bell and Mrs. Hill, for helping us to become a little bit more aware of the kinds of students that you work with at the Ann Hill School. And participants, you've been given a synopsis. With time, you will get some additional exposure as we build the partnership, build the community. You will get to learn a lot more about them and to be able to meet them and they meet you as we continue to build those relationships. Again, thank you very much to the two presenters. At this time, I'm going to I would like to invite Mrs. Felicia Balgobin. She will come and she will address us on the topic of visual impairment. Mrs. Balgobin is a trained graduate teacher at the Irving Wilson School, and there she works with students who are visually impaired. I want to tell you that Mrs. Balgobin herself is visually impaired. I recall the first time that I met her at the Ministry of Education. I think it was in 2018, 2019. And at that time, she was being interviewed for the post of temporary teacher. And I want to say to you that I was struck, I was impressed, not only by her knowledge of the pedagogy, but by her ability to adapt and adjust very quickly to the new environment. She was able to navigate the 2 flights of stairs. She didn't ask for any assistance. She did it all on her own. She entered very confidently and was very comfortable in the space as we interacted with her. Please put your hands together and join me as we welcome her to present to us. Yes? Thank you.
Anyone knows what's this in my hand? A weapon? Okay. Somebody else? A walking stick. Anybody else? A blind person's cane. Most people call it a stick. Those who have not engaged with it or have not been exposed to the right term for it. It is the eyes of a person who is low vision or blind. Now, everyone with a cane is not blind. Now, vision impairment is a spectrum, and vision impairment affects different persons and different students at different degrees. There are persons with extremely low vision, where they may see colors, they may see to navigate their environment, but they may not see words. They may not be able to read the letters on this slide. They may sit in a classroom and struggle in a mainstream classroom to see the board, and they may be forever getting low grades because they cannot see their work. They struggle. They sit in a classroom, they rub their eyes, they squint. Sometimes they go to the board, and no matter what they do, they cannot see it. But they're low vision. Sometimes it takes a lot. Sometimes it takes a lot of convincing, despite that is an obvious situation to parents, to say something is wrong, let's go to the eye specialist. Because most parents want and accepting that something could possibly be wrong makes it hard, because then it puts you in a position to admit that my child is not correct. Therefore, sometimes that delay the help the child needs. That also can help aid in the child seeing the board. That can also aid in the child getting worse, because then you spend years trying to read what you can't see, trying to see a board that you can't see, trying to complete an assignment or a task, or you may also get injuries. You may fall frequently because you were walking and you didn't see the step up. Now, most persons who are visually impaired, this step up is the same color as the flat. So being able to see to navigate and go up and then go up again makes it harder, because you got to be able to distinguish one step from the next. And if you can't distinguish one step from the next, or your depth perception, your ability to know how far to step down, I was just up here. If I'm struggling to see my depth perception and I step a little shorter, I can fall because I was expecting a deeper step. And then you were clueless. Oh, she fell down because she was careless. You're not paying attention. You're clumsy. And these are all things that become hazards, not because we want them to be, but because the individual cannot see clear enough to determine how far to step up, how to position your body, because you prepare your body when you're walking for a high step, a low step, and how you, if you fall, determines, or if you hurt your back, you ever make a step and it was deep, and that pain went straight to your back because the step was so deep and you didn't prepare your body for it. That's exactly what happens to those who are low vision. We're constantly hurting, and I say we, because I'm low vision as well. We're constantly, because the world, unfortunately, the environment is not built for us in mind. So most places don't have right strips at the edge of a step where we can highlight that. That's those persons who are low vision. Now at the Irving Wilson School, we have about 7 students who are visually impaired, and all of them are different. All of them have different variant eye conditions. We have glaucoma, we have cataract, and we have different eye conditions, some not clearly diagnosed as well. And each of those students see differently. So it's not a one size fits all. It's not, oh, we both visually impaired together, kumbaya, so I can give you a font. I can give you this, and I see it, and I can give this to another student, and she does not. So catering to the student is important. Being knowing and being aware of the level of degree of the disability and how much vision the person has, what they see, and even what caused that illness, which also will allow you to know if it's going to get worse, if it's going to decrease, if it's going to stay stable for a period of time, which will determine how advanced we're going to introduce Braille, if we're going to remain at large print. Because note, most people think that once you are visually impaired, you automatically know Braille. But everyone who is visually impaired don't necessarily need Braille. It is a good tool to have, because persons may remain visually impaired for the rest of their life, and large print will do the job versus the Braille. The Braille obviously is an important tool, is an important medium to use. Yeah, is an important medium. Yeah, is an important medium to use. Yeah, because this is not a language; it's a code. Have you ever seen a Braille machine before? Yeah?
No.
Can everyone see this from down here? Those in the back? Yeah? I'm gonna put it, I have a slide, put it up for me too. Just give me a second. Go ahead. We'll keep going. Here we go. So Braille is a combination of dots, and these dots mean words. They interpret to letters. Now, Braille is not something that you can look at and say, A form the letter of a shape of an A. It's not as like sign language, where just like some of our gestures earlier, you knew that some of our gestures meant the same thing, because when you are gesturing and normally that is the same sign that we have. But for sign language, give me some paper. Dots 1 is A. And that is uncontracted Braille when we have, yeah. So there are 6 dots, and each of these 6 dots make all, you got there, all of the letters of the alphabet. So if you can, I don't know if you can see from down there, we have some keys, and as much as, can you all see? Yeah? We have some keys, and the combination of the keys is what will create letters. So I'm going to ask a volunteer to come so you can interact with the Braille machine yourself. And I want you to try to put in the paper. I'm going to guide you. Anyone want to come? Bring it closer to the table, right here. All right, I need to come around there. Excuse me, I need to put this on. All right, we're gonna release. We're gonna hold this up. Then you're gonna put this in. Oh, sorry. On both sides. So he's rolling any paper now. Keep going. All right. Usually this Brailler is supposed to, a bell goes off when it rolls in to a certain degree, so you know when to stop. This one didn't, so it needs surfacing. So then this button here, when you press this, and this.
Simultaneously?
Yes, please, simultaneously. Good. Now press this first, and then that. And space. No, when you press, you gotta lift it up, and then press the space bar. Right. Go again. So he's pressing dots 1, space, dots 1, space, dots 1, space, dots 1, space. Keep going. Dots 1, space, dots 1, space. And he is actually making a line after the letter A.
I shall continue.
All right, so I don't know if you heard a bell. Yes. So that bell told him he was at the end of the page. He was at the end of the line going across. So he knew at that point he couldn't go any further, and he had to press this button here on the left to go to the next page and then go across. So each of these dots, now basic Braille, or what we call uncontracted Braille, you use a combination like dots 1 and dots 2 make letter B. Dots 1 makes A. Yes? And that is the beginning of introducing you to Braille, where we start with basic Braille, where you just use uncontracted Braille, which is just these dots, these 6 dots, and they actually combine together, make all the letters of the alphabet. And that is how they're able to produce their work. And also get work in return in a format when they cannot see print at all. Or when their vision is so distorted that they have to, even doing like this is fine for a low vision person, but when it's this close and you still see foggy and you're not able to make out what you're reading, this is where the Braille comes into play. Yeah? All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, So I wanted to give you an example of how persons with different eye conditions see. Each, as I said to you before, each of them see differently. Yeah? So here we have, let's look through the eyes of a blind spot. Now here you have a person who may have a blind spot, where it is right in the center of the eye. And you realize that the person can see to the left and to the right, but they can't see anything in the middle. You realize? It's like a fog, a gray fog. And sometimes you experience, when you experience that kind of vision, where you might be walking on your left, and your vision on that side is clear, and on your right is clear, but your center is distorted. Next one. This one now is tunnel vision. I don't know if you ever saw a person with a condition taking the eye and doing like this, trying to block the light out to see, or just taking their hand and pushing it up. You'll find this a lot in classrooms of mainstream students who are not diagnosed yet, where a child might be sitting down doing this, where they're trying to close out the light to see this space. So they're trying to see the tunnel through, and that's the only part they're seeing because everywhere else is dark and gray. Yeah? Next one. Then night blindness. You have the section where they're able to function during the day. They can navigate, can step up and down, don't need much assistance. But then at night, this is how they see. They can't tell they step up, you can't really identify the building, you can't see the sidewalk, everything is just blur. Next one. Then we have color blindness, where you may have red and green. The color, you may have a sign with red, and the student sees green. No form of red in any form or fashion. They see a totally different color than what you are seeing with your naked eye. And that sometimes impair what words are on the sign. So if a sign has words that are red and the child has color blindness, then the words are harder to read because the background color distorts their pathway to seeing the actual surface of the word. All right. So as I said earlier, we use large print. And this is an example. So sometimes we do our work in fonts of 20, 25, as big as possible. Sometimes it means that a passage may have to be on 2 pages so that they can see. Another example we have here, you see that we have black as a background and white as a foreground. Now for some persons with visual impairment, everyone is different. There's some students that this background would have had to been blue and the words would have had to been yellow. Then there's some students where the background would have been red and the words white. So every individual child has to be catered to based on what's their eye condition. So, as I said, we say, oh, that body blind, so just give them a cane. Everybody has to be catered to based on their eye condition because what they need is different. Yeah? Next one. Here we have some assistive technology. This one is called an Orbit Reader. This is the more advanced version to the Braille machine because let me say I'm at UE and I want to make my notes. I can't walk with this big heavy machine. So I walk with this Orbit Reader right here. If you realize it has the same similar keys and it can hook up to a USB. You can hook it into your laptop or into a USB port, and it converts everything. You can write your notes and it comes out in Braille. Next one. This one is another assistive device. It's called a scanning and reading appliance, which is called Sarah. Now Sarah, when you turn it on, it actually speaks to you. It says, hi, my name is Sarah. And it reads whatever print that you can't see in our unit. We scan the page. We put it there for the students, so any books that they may have home that their own peers might be reading, and they don't have access to reading it because they can't see it, they bring it to school. Once it's appropriate print. Once it's an appropriate book. Yeah, they bring it to school. They put it there under the scanner, and they sit and they enjoy and they read. The book reads to them. The machine reads to them. So it scans the page, and what you're able to do with this machine is that you're able to increase the speed of the, so if you're a fast reader, you don't want it reading to you in a robotic format, you can increase it. You can change it from sounding like a robot. You can change it from sounding from a male to a female. You can play around with what's your listening style. So if you want nice, I don't know, slow voice, you choose that. If you want a faster voice, and even have the option of black and white, black person or a white person. You can choose which voice you want to listen to and which voice you prefer to hear as you scan your book and enjoy listening as you go along. Now this is called a Braille embosser. Now with this really helped us in the teaching environment and also for the students, because before this came around, we used to have, especially for students who are blind, we would sit down and type out every single thing on this machine, everything on here. Now we don't have to. What we do is we send the printed document to the embosser and it puts it in Braille. So instead of having to sit and type every single word, you now can send the document through the computer, through the Braille embosser, and it comes out in Braille. So if something is, say for example, a child has been integrated at Common Mirror, and there's a textbook, and it's in print, but you can't see, you take it, you put it into the embosser, and it comes out in Braille. That is why these technologies are very important, because when they're not available or they're not working, then it puts you in a predicament where you don't have access to your work. Here is a desktop magnifier. As you can see here, the words are on the screen, the book is under, and what happens here, it magnifies, you can turn the center knob and magnify the print as big as you need it. So instead of having to print for Tia in 15 font and for me in 20, you take the document, the small print document that you may be struggling to see, you put it underneath here, you change, you can also change the background. So as I was saying earlier, if you don't see well with black words on white background, you can change the background to black, to red, to blue, whatever color that allows you to see better, you can change this background to, and then you can increase the font to as big as you need it, and you sit in your chair and you comfortably read your book. So the Sarah that reads to you, this one, you do the reading, but it magnifies it as big as you need it, so you are able to read independently. All right, orientation and mobility. It's important to be aware of what to say, how to guide, how to direct. And one of the things that I find that we tend to get a lot of people tend to shout. I don't know why there's some myth that people who are visually impaired are also deaf, but we are not. You know? They shout and they shout. And when you say can't see, they talk louder. So please, we're not doing that, right? We're not talking louder. They'll still not see. All right? So that's an issue we've been having where people literally raise their voice. You can't see me! No. Still can't. No matter how low you get, I still can't see you. Now, voice is important. Communication is definitely important. You can speak to us. You can say what you need from us. You can tell us what is going on. There's an emergency. We are going to be taking you out the building. We will prefer you not drag us like we are packages, because we will fall. A lot of times people come, grab it as me, you can't see, come. That is not what we're doing. The approach will be like you do to any other person. Hi, my name is Ms. Bagovin. Can I help you? Yes, please. I'm going to help you cross the street, if that's what you're doing. All right. Obviously, in an emergency, You don't got time for too many graces. Hi, we're gonna get out of here. Can I help you? And as you say that, that person is gonna automatically try to hold on to you. Now, there is a way to assist a person who's living in here. Let me step back a little. Back behind you. Now, this hand, which is your right hand, the person holds slightly above your elbow. And then you walk slightly, don't walk with me. Then you walk slightly ahead. That way the person feels your step. Now I'm gonna walk. And as I walk, I can also speak. I can say, all right, there's a corner in front of you to your right. Yeah? And let's say we are going through, there's something narrow here, but if there was a narrow corner, I take this hand and I put it behind me. That automatically tells the person that we are going to flow. You can't walk into this area. So where she could walk a little bit next to me, and I guide, I recognize we're going through a little bit of this tunnel. And the space is smaller. I put my hand behind me, and that person then automatically flows behind me, immediately behind me, and we walk. And as you walk, you can speak. You can say, all right, we're exiting now, we're approaching a step up, we're approaching a slope, so adjust your body to suit the slope. We're approaching a camera on the right, so just fall back a little. You can speak, you can talk, you can share. You can let the person know what is around them, so that they're able to navigate their environment independently without harm or without injury. And once you approach them in that manner, you say what's going on, you let them know what's happening. And then when the emergency is happening, we all know everyone's busy. People are checking the building to make sure everything's fine. But as they're standing, without being able to see anyone or anything, especially those who are fighting, they need to be reassured that they're not standing there by themselves. They're not just been put on the field alone, and possibly they can feel the fire, they can smell the fire, and if there's no noise around them, then you just put them in the desert. That's an analogy of how it will feel if you're just put in a space with no communication. With no communication. Yeah? So it's important that's where the buddy system will come into play. So then you will take that person and say, I'm putting you here next to Chantal. Chantal, you're with Felicia. And Chantal will talk to Felicia and say, well, all right, everything is settling down. They're out in the fire. We are safe. And you give information. Because one of the things that people don't recognize, and some of you will get to demonstrate it soon, or engage with it soon, is you get a lot of information through your eyes. You get a lot of information through your eyes. If you had to close your eyes and enter this room, you would not know where to step, where to sit, if to stand, if to walk. You will not know what to do unless someone tells you. You're in a lecture-style room. That then gives me an idea. You're in a room with steps going downward. That gives me another idea. The persons at the front are facing you. Gives me another idea. But all that information you get in with your eyes without having to ask any questions. But a person who cannot see, unfortunately, some of them, not all, some of them may be able to walk in the room as I show you the different types of visual fields and tell that this is a lecture room, but I'm not able to see the step down, or I'm not able to see the seats. Yeah? So it's important to talk, to communicate, to share, to explain, and to ask questions. How can I help? Because most persons know exactly what they need, and they can tell you, I just need you to hold my hand. I just need you to take me a little further away. I just need you to, and they say exactly what they need. We've taught our students to speak up, not to be rude, but to say what you need to get the assistance that you need, because everyone wouldn't know what to do for you. But you have to ask, how can I help? Or I am the first responder and I am here to guide you out. You say that as fast as you need to say, and you get out the building. Yeah? All right, just, all right, I'm going to ask for a volunteer. Beautiful. Now, unfortunately, because we have students, usually, let me just say this first. A cane is given to you based on your height. So, unfortunately, I'm going to give this to you, but it's not the appropriate cane for your height. All right? And a cane gives you the information that you need to know in your environment. Now, I know that you're looking at this, but I'm going to take that. I just let you know I'm moving it. I just put it there because I know most people will try to right the pattern. So that's what I do in a room when they can't see. Yeah, you look smart. I know, right? But I wanted to have a day of how we feel, so you can't handle it. Oh, no. Yeah, she could see the therapist. Gotcha. I'm just making sure she's not seeing me. Have trust issues. And that's another beautiful example of her is that one of the things that we are forced to do is that we are forced to trust. Because when you hold us, you have to trust that you're going to give us a safe space. We have to trust that you're going to not walk me in the pool. That somehow like it's loose with this one and then we have to trust that you're going to navigate. And that is where there are times where it's not something that we freely give. Where some random person comes and says, I mean, it's still related that you're struggling. How do I know? This is kind of similar to what happened to Benjamin. The other guy that visually impaired that guy started to help him cross the road. And he took the assistance because it sounded normal. Can I help you cross the road? And then when he got across the road, he then took to do something else. So it is a real. This is real. Yeah. It's something that needs to be dependent. Because there's some things you need assistance with. This beautiful thing here called a can and not a stick. Is that this there that's a super. Yes, can be used. Yes. All right. You want a can. So the can allows you to first. The can gives you information. It tells you what's in your way. It tells you where it's supposed to be left, to the right. Move this right on to the right in the center. Now put it further up for me. Right there. Yeah. Thank you. So you're gonna swing, not swing it, lift it off the floor. You're gonna keep it on the floor. And you're gonna roll it from left to right. As you walk forward, possibly. All right? I'm gonna stand next to you. I'm right here, keep going. You recognize that she's walking out. Slowly. Hesitantly. What happened there? What happened? She shifted. Wait. What happened there this month?
They did something. Not exactly sure. Felt like it moved. I'm trying to locate it so that.
So that's another thing. So when she hit it, it sounded me, it gave her the information that it fell over. So it's no longer standing tall. So that also means that it's probably lower in your way as well. So feeling as you go forward is even more important. Because she has to see at this thing that was standing tall is long to get her up. Did you see how she shifted it?
Her hair is still very good. It's still very good. Well done. Well done.
I just want to know how did you feel doing that?
Not preaching, but I think every day we take the simple things we have for granted, like our sight, and being totally blinded just now, not being aware of my environment. As much as I try to memorize it, you wickedly change the talk. It's not a nice feeling because it leaves you feeling vulnerable. Just with a stick to try to navigate, a cane, try to navigate your path, and then without having some person actually behind you or tell you where to go, I felt like my independence was taken away a bit. So
You would understand a person, say, at 15, 16, who they've been diagnosed with a condition all their life, they're low vision, and then all of a sudden they lose their total vision. That is how they feel. And then they have to deal with that emotions, they have to deal with their self-esteem, their self-value, their self-worth, as they navigate world around them. All right, you had a question, so before I go to her.
Well, there are two things. I recognize that when she touched the first object, she almost changed direction, and she went towards the table. And then she used the table, she touched the table, she came the other side. Now, every week, we generally hike with a legally blind man. He has his cane, and watching that, it was different from how he operates, because all we have to do is we would just say, Mark, duck, you have to duck. And you will say it, probably, you will watch him, and then if it's something around the head, you would say it probably 2 to 3 feet away, and he will know what to do. He tell you a tree obstacle, he will tell you a tree with thorns, and you just tell him what is happening, and he moves through the environment like any normal person.
All right, I love that. I love that. So what that was, or what that is a person who's been blind for a very long time. And when you've been blind for a long time, your environment, that's all you know. You function different. So a person, we just blinded her suddenly. So the person who just lost their vision unexpectedly is a process. And there are some persons who may never get to that person. And there's some persons who would always be apprehensive. Personality plays a role too. You know, if you're fearless, if you have great support, if you have persons who will say, look, we're going out here, we're hiking, and you know, so how you are, your environment also determines how you function. You know, we might have 2 blind persons, let me say Carrie Ann Eiffel, who's been blind all her life from a child, and then another person who lost their vision at 40. Those 2 persons will not navigate the world the same. But they're both blind. Because one, they don't know what it is to see at all. So they've all they knew. So they've learned how to, like, how she was walking, and she heard something about what? That she could date. And we're not saying to know. We don't get. We just have to tune in more. So you have it too. So it's just that you tune in more to your other senses, because this one is gone. And you then have no choice but to then you force your brain to listen more, so you hear more. I remember, because I would have lost my vision. I only got it back in the last 3 years, but I got back some of it. And when I lost my vision completely, which is 3 years ago, hearing say you're walking and the wind blows and those fine rocks that blows on the ground, I would hear those and I would stop and listen. I would hear the leaves. I would hear hustling behind me. It also made me nervous because I wasn't sure all the time what it was. But then there was no, I still hear it, but I don't have to be as attentive. So I don't zone in. But before it would make me, wait, what's that? So there are 2 different degrees. There's actually way more than 2. Every visually impaired, that's like they say with the spectrum of autism, every person functions different. You know, there's some persons that might never use this. They may never do it. There's some persons because of self-esteem and what this means and what this means to the public, because most people think that this means you're blind and you can't see, you can go and put your foot in front of me. So some persons would prefer to walk around with a frame and then use the other hand to glide. Now, but this gives you a lot of independence because there's some things your hand shouldn't touch. This can touch it. This gives you information that if your hand hit something that could cut you, you hang on. But if this touched something, this touched a puddle of water just now, while she was going left to right, it wasn't her hand, her naked hand in the water. It was this. This could wash. Yeah? All right, next person. Any other questions before we go to the next person? All right, so thank you so much there. So we had an example of a person who is blind, totally blind, and now we have an example of low vision. Miss Bell, can you pick up this cone for me, please? Put it in the center. And another thing I would say, I'm able to see these cones because of the color. Color matters. If these cones were white or the same color as the toe, I would be in trouble. So the color, I'm able to navigate this because of the color. So color plays a vital role when you're low vision. All right, you ready? Yeah? All right, let's go. So you're one thing from left to right. You're still going to try to see. Because once you have vision, and there's another thing, people will say, stop straining your eyes. But straining your eyes are when you are, I don't know what, because eyes are meant to use. Sorry, I keep dropping this. Eyes were meant to use. And so it is an organ that was meant to use. So if you are trying to see, it actually helps the eye. Because instead of, when you say, you ever hear a saying, when you when you don't exactly, and it can actually get lazy and then it doesn't work at all. So trying to see out of your eyes, even though you're struggling to, is really not a form of straining your eye. Watching too many, reading too long, or being in front of television and taking in a lot of radiation in the eye, or the lighting that you're reading, those are things that can cause strain. But trying to see out of something that is meant to see is not straining your eyes. All right? You ready? All right. I want you to say it loud.
Nothing on his face.
All right.
I don't know if he's wearing glasses. I don't know if he has a mustache. I cannot see his eyes. I don't know if he's looking at me. I can't see anything. I don't know his features. I just know
That's the one that's there.
he's a figure. It looks like a person. And he's wearing a white shirt.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So that's another example of how she sees. You heard the beginning when she said about the cones?
And I can see orange. I know that this is orange. It's a cone, but it's very cloudy. I can't see. I just know that that's a man over there. I don't know if he has on a hat, And I can't see anybody on the back line up there.
I think that's a perfect example of low vision.
Anybody face in here right now, I cannot see your face. I don't know what you look like. I cannot see your face.
So perfect example of a person who can see well, who might be able to stand here and tell you, I can see Miss Bell, I can see, you know, and they go on and give names and they describe and they say the features, you know. For me, I struggle because people think I'm already when most of the time I can't see you. Or I see you, but I have to wait till you get closer to be able to determine your features. And then people will say, oh, sorry, I'm already, because people, I don't, just like there's some disabilities that people think has a look. The disability of blind is a cane and there are dark glasses. I don't use those two things at the moment. So when I don't, you'll be, and even though you may know I'm visually impaired, you will see me from across the street and wave, and I don't wave back. She on Marty. You know, that's how you foggy, like, I can't even see your hand. So I'm gonna let her navigate. Now she's gonna walk a little bit more confident because she can see the cones. Even though they're foggy, she knows something is there. So she has no reason to walk into. So her abilities, so hey, so you will see that a person like her may not necessarily use the cane because she's not really taking a lot of information with that cane because she's using her vision. So you see that way people would say, oh, but she can't see, but she don't go and get state. It doesn't give you the same information depending on your degree of vision because you're still seeing. You still have functional vision. And once you have functional vision, you're going to use it. Yeah? So it's only when you've reached a certain degree where you're not seeing as much as you should that then this cane comes into play. It is critical, though, to learn how to use it, whether you need it. So that when that time comes, it will still be a learning curve because learning to use something when you don't need it and learning to use something when you do need it are two different experiences. Yeah? Thank you. That's jumbo. Yes. Yeah. Beautiful. You have your glasses? Yes, I do. Sorry. That's the teacher at VKK. I usually tell my students when they, because even though my students are visually impaired, they tend to not want to wear their glasses. And they will come and they're in front of me and like, where are your glasses? At home, but that's not where you are. So I believe if glasses can assist you, I believe if that can aid you, please use them. They go a long way. They help their lifespan of your eyes. All right, so I have some resources here for you to look at. It's a Braille book. Can you pass me this Star Marcy's? The pink one. Take this from me. I have to put on the mic again. Now, in our unit, in our visually impaired unit, we have these books here. Now, they're specifically for our students with low vision. And the reason why we get them from Media Resource, and the reason why, what's different about this book? What else? The line is darker. So in those books that selling will work from a different stationery store, you will see that we can barely see the line. So our words don't go on the line. They go everywhere else and it's up in skull everywhere else other than on this line. So this book then allows you then to write your notes. And you will find most students who are visually impaired write small. Yeah, it's something. And it doesn't add up, it doesn't make sense, but most of them write small. We can't see what we write, well, we know we write. Because we write it. So, but when you write for us, please write big. But you will find most visually impaired students, for some reason, I've been reading about it, research. We rate small. Can't get it explained. Psychologically, they don't know why, but we rate small. But this is the book that we use in the unit, and they write all their notes in this book because the line is darker, they can see, and so we provide all the students with their books for school in the unit for the blind. Then we have books here which are large print and then tactile. This is for your engine. And this one is tactile. I'll let you pass it around. Actually, I'm just gonna pass around a couple of the books so you can touch and interact and feel. And the reason for this is to give the student you can pass all those around. Thanks. It's to give the student a feel and an experience of what they are missing or what information they are not receiving when another student who can see learns. And then we have some with Braille and print, so you can actually see the Braille and you can read the words at the same time. So if a student may not need the Braille, but they can see the print, they just read and they feel and they navigate the words as they go along. So that's it. As you continue to interact with the resources, I will use this time to ask questions. If you have any questions to ask, feel free.
All right, you kept iterating, it is not a walking stick.
Yes.
It is a cane.
Yes.
But still yet you will see other persons who we suspect on our daily travel, you will see them not with these canes that you have presented, but sometimes probably a broomstick or a mop stick or something along a piece of bamboo.
Yes.
And you see them traversing and moving. Is there a significance to the cane versus the stick? Does it feel any different? Does it give any different information?
Yes, it does. Well, yes, it does. Number one, no. First, most people you see with an actual stick are persons who went blind in adulthood. And it does take up a state. Because black people, they are people, this is what I will say, most people who are using a stick is because they think that that is a stick. And they think it's the same thing. But it's not. The cane has a roller at the bottom. And it vibrates as well. When you hold it in your hand, because you're on a flat surface, you wouldn't have feel that. But when you're outside in the environment, you're dealing with rocks and grass, this cane gives you more information than a stick. A stick can just be just what is a stick, left to right, and a person, there's some people, as I said, when you lose your vision at 40, everybody going to the Deaf and Blind Association and saying, I need your assistance, I need your guidance. Some people just do what they need to do to survive. And those are some of the people that you're seeing who are just walking with what they have. It helps. They know that blind people is walk with a stick, so that's a stick, and they use it. But that's pretty much it. It is a case where they have not been trained to use the cane.
All right, I just want to make a comment, and it's just for most of the younger officers in here. Eyesight will deteriorate. Every one of us happens to. I went from being able to read everything. I now have 4 readers, one in the office at home, one upstairs, one in my bag, and one in the office at work. Because reading becomes, especially if you are studying, you will find that once you read as black and white, it tends to make your eyes deteriorate. Yeah. So all you young ones who are here now who can read pretty well, there's going to come a time when you're not going to be able to see that well. and as Ford said earlier, it will give you an appreciation for what you have.
Yeah.
Please join with me once more to say thank you, Mrs. Balgobin. Great job again, lots of sharing, lots of learning. I think we are, again, I'm going to use this word, we're off to a great start. And I look forward to having the opportunity for us to collaborate again in the near future as we seek to continue to share the knowledge and the skills to assist you in your day-to-day duties. At this time, I am going to invite Mr. Maynard to come to the podium, and he's going to move the vote of thanks.
Dr. Morris, Senior Education Officer, principals, teachers, Senior Commander of the Barbados Fire Service, other participants. Good afternoon. I think that we have exceeded expectations. It was a very enlightening morning for me personally. Although I had exposure to some of these things, it was very enlightening. So before I actually go into that, I want to thank our Minister, Minister Wilfred Abrams, Minister of Home Affairs, who allowed us to participate in this activity. Actually, he was part of the whole conceptualization of this whole program, and some other things that we will definitely talk to later. I want to thank also Dr. Morris, Dr. Archer, Ms. Beckers, and the whole Ministry of Education and Transformation.
Educational
And
transformation.
Educational Transformation. I want to thank you all for joining with us, the fire service, because this collaboration really enabled us to respond in a different way. We would have gone to schools, we would have responded to accidents, we would have responded to fires of different sorts, but when you have persons with disabilities and persons with different challenges, then you recognize that there's another challenge that you have to cope with. I remember years ago we went to a house fire, I think that was in Westbury Road or something like that. And there were two children there in the house with challenges. Apparently one of them lit the house, and he was under a tree showing off all of these different gyrations that I saw my friend demonstrating earlier. And we could not get any information out of either one of them. And just by chance, we asked one of our officers, go and speak to this young lady, see if you can get something out of her. And he went and he sat beside her for a while, just quiet, he didn't say anything. And then he started to talk to her. And within, say, 5 to 7 minutes, we had a lot of information out of this young lady. And we said then that, knowing something, we need to train our people to deal with people with disabilities, but no real action was taken. But on this occasion, we recognized that we are going to the neighbors, and we are going to affect them by our noise and our operation. So we said that we will definitely get into it and make sure that our officers are trained. And this is only the first, because all of us have to be trained. It's not only the ones that by the Irving Wilson and not only the ones by Ann Hill, but we also have, I understand, there's a special needs in this compound here. I understand there's one at Eagle Hall, and I believe that in most schools we will find them. And then they live in different districts. They live in different villages in the heights. So if you go to a fire there or any incident, you still will encounter these people. So the training that you receive today and the training that you will receive on a later date will all help us to respond more effectively. So I want to thank all involved, and I can assure you that we will be, if not here, we'll be in such an environment again. I also want to say at this point that we also will be going into the schools, giving Dr. Morris notice that we have a schools program that we want to roll out and we want to get into the schools. So this is just early notice that we'll be coming at you with our fire prevention and code enforcement team and the others who will be working with that project. We will be talking to you very soon on another project that we'll be engaging you on the schools. So thank you. God bless.
Thank you, Mr. Maynard. I just want to add my thanks to the Media Resource Department for their technical support. In the absence of the representatives from the various media houses, we thank them for the wonderful coverage that we know we will get. And thanks also being expressed to the management and staff of Earlston Teachers Training College. We are grateful that they were able to allow us to use the facilities here today. And with those words, colleagues, I just want to add, and thank you also to Mr. Husbands, who so ably signed for us today. Thanks, thanks, thank you. Yes. And this is a start. We are looking forward to strengthening the partnership, the collaboration, extending the community. Thank you all so very much for being here. It was great to be here, and we appreciated having you and having the interactions. As you prepare to leave, I want to trust that you will do so safely, and I look forward to meeting you all again sometime soon and maybe in a different location. Thank you all.